Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is David, this is David K Reacts, and here on this channel I ramble with articulation, I hope, about a variety of different musical, video and audio elements of the videos that I watch. And today I am carrying on with Reactor Month, which if you haven't seen my last few videos, this month I am reacting to content put out by other reactors. Not their reactions, but actual songs that they have performed. We've done a couple of originals, we've done a cover, and today is going to be another cover. And this one, the reactor in question is Peter Barber. And in this video he's going to be joined by Teagan Earley, and we'll be checking out their cover of the Cranberries' smash hit song, Zombie. Peter is somebody I came across very early in my understanding of the reactor community when it comes to music, especially as a bass singer. I started clicking on his videos very early because I am a bass singer myself, in case you didn't know that, and it was interesting to me to hear what another bass singer had to say about such groups as Home Free and Voice Play and all that sort of thing, and dealing with those really low singers. So very, very interested to see what he does with this. We have, of course, covered Peter's work previously on this channel with the Bass Gang, but never as a solo. Normally when I bring someone in as a solo, I do a song that is just them, but Zombie, Peter's cover and Peter and Teagan's cover came out, as I record this, less than 24 hours ago, and so this is obviously going to be having a second artist. Teagan is somebody I don't know. I haven't come across her work previously, although I know she is involved both in Epic the Musical and in songs from Styx, and those are things I have not yet checked out. So I'm unfamiliar with her work. I say that. The name is familiar enough that I think I may have sort of seen it in passing on Instagram or possibly on YouTube. But she isn't somebody who I've sort of delved into as of yet. So I'm excited to see what the two of them together bring to this. Zombie, of course, incredibly famous song. It was written in 1993. And this was written around the time that there was a very, very long-running strife involving Northern Ireland. It had been going, I think, for over 30 years at this point in time. And in 1993 specifically, there was a bombing in England, and I was going on 8 at the time. And I have a very, very clear memory of this. Sadly, two very, very young individuals passed away as a result of this bombing. And it was a time where, you know, I remember there were a couple of days, I think, that my grandmother and I had planned to go up to London, and we didn't go because there had been a threat of another such event. And for the most part, when these events were happening, there was some warning given because it was a political point that was trying to be made, and unfortunately there were some some who took it too far and unfortunately caused injuries and a lot more damage. And this was one of those examples. And Dolores O'Riordan, the lead singer, front person of the Cranberries, when they were touring in 1993, she came up with the idea for this song, and it's very much a sort of political protest song. And the producers and the record label were actually quite worried about putting this song out because it was so political. But it was extremely successful. I'm going to have to refer here because I can't remember everything, all the countries, but it charted #1 in Australia, Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, and Iceland, as well as #1 on the US Billboard Alternative Airplay chart. It didn't make it onto the Billboard Hot 100 specifically, but extremely popular piece of music. Just scanning down as well, looking at even the decade end charts, it got to number 18 in Belgium as a decade song. It's platinum in Australia, Belgium, Denmark, Germany, double platinum in Italy and Spain, 3 times in the UK, 5 times in New Zealand, although of course their levels are not quite as high. But 3 times platinum in the UK means there were 1,800,000 certified sales, which is crazy. And it made gold in Austria and Brazil as well. Needless to say, this was a song that did extremely well for itself, and deservedly so. It's remarkable. It's one of the songs that I knew most in my childhood. It was one of my first introductions, I think, to that sort of grunge sound that they used in it. And it was an absolute sort of eye-opener to me, because I got this on a one of those, I think we had a series of cassettes or CDs, depending on where you were in time, called Now That's What I Call Music, which was all the popular hits of the time, and I'm pretty sure it was on one of those I came across this, and it was very different for what I was used to hearing. One other credit, actually, now that I think about it, because I was just thinking about Top of the Pops, which is our UK TV programme showing what was on the charts at the time. It also won Best Song at the 1995 MTV Europe Music Awards. I mean, this is, we're talking serious accolades here. And yeah, this was a piece I heard very early on, and it kind of opened my eyes to a different variety of music, as well as I think this was one of the earliest songs where I had, and I didn't really understand the depth of it at the time, but where I had an understanding of how politics could be put into a song. Now, I'm 8 when this song comes out. It's hardly me sitting there analysing, the last 30 years of history and strife that was going on at the time, but just the simple concept of it was something new to me. And so, I'd heard it in other songs, but this one was so overt and so current. And that's what really hit home for me, was I could relate it, at least on a superficial level, to what was actually happening, very close to home for me at the time. So yeah, I have an interesting connection with this song in that sense, and I'm really, really excited to see what Peter and Teagan do with this. I have been blabbing for a long time, so we're going to jump ahead. I'm going to say welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is your first time here. If it is, the way that I do this, I'm going to watch this thing from beginning to end, commenting and emoting over the top of the video. I will then go back and watch it a second time, this time pausing, interrupting, and offering what commentary and analysis I feel I can, based on what I've just seen and heard and the foreknowledge of that one prior viewing. For those who are coming here who are fans of Peter, just FYI, I don't have the vocal knowledge that Peter has. My technical sort of application to reactions comes from having kind of dipped my toe into lots of different positions within the theatre and film world. So I have a little bit of knowledge about vocal technique. I am trained as a musical director and in musical theatre, but also cinematography, lighting, all that sort of thing. So there's lots of... I come at it from a jack of all trades, master of none perspective, just so you're aware. Please do hit the like button, subscribe button, and the notification bell. And if you would care to support the channel, you can do so with a one-off donation at buymeacoffee.com/DavidKReacts, at patreon.com/DavidKReacts, or by leaving a super thanks here on YouTube, and any of those gratefully appreciated if you would care to do so. I think that's everything, so without any further delay, let's check out what Peter Barber and Teagan Earley do with the Cranberries' Zombie. Ooh. Interesting tone to start with. And into pitch black. I'm intrigued. Oh, that's cool. I love the use of color already. I love. The harmonizing here is really cool. I love the choice to flip Peter above. Yes. Ooh. I love the instrumentation they're using as well. I like the use of these rings. I'll talk about that later. Yes. Love that percussion riff that happened just there. That was really cool. Oh, that's cool. This breakdown, though. Lovely choice. Building back up. Ooh. Such a pure quality into the voice. This slow push in. I love how the instruments kind of come and go in the arrangement too. Oh, bravo! Everybody involved in that. Give me 2 seconds while I check the description. I'll be right back. So, couple of things. Firstly, Peter, besides doing the performance that you just saw there, was his own vocal producer, mixer, and mixer and masterer for the entire song, which, grats, man. This is really, really well mixed. I really love the flow that you've got going on here. And being able to do all of those things for yourself, really, really valuable. So that's awesome. Well done, sir. And then Teagan, obviously, did the performances here. Her vocal producer, JP Warner, whose name I recognize from Mortius' Dreamscape, which I covered 2 weeks ago as this comes out. So that's a name I recognize. And one thing I'd forgotten to mention at the beginning of this, which I knew because I had spoken to Peter about it, was that Marwan edited this video, Marwan Ayman from the Bass Gang, who I also covered one of his solo videos a little while ago. I'll put a note up here somewhere. One of the little cards that pops up, you can check out that reaction. But yeah, this was fantastic. I love the use of sort of depth and the way it's been EQ'd and mixed kind of gives an element of that grunginess, even though that's not quite where this arrangement goes. It retains that through some of the choices that have been made here, and I really, really like that. But we've gone for something slightly different with the sort of style that's going on. The visual style accompanies the song so very well, and the use of color in this. I'm a sucker, I really am, for a video that is monochrome, grayscale monochrome with a single color. It's such an effective thing when it gets done right, and I think this is a really good use of that. Marwan, fantastic work on this one. I'm really, really impressed. Let's go back to the beginning. I'm going to go through this again, and we'll see what I can pull out, which I think will be quite a bit. Okay, so straight off the bat, I love starting with this kind of pedal tone that we've got going on here. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's the slightly electronic nature of it. I really like. It kind of goes nicely with these visuals that look like sort of almost like there's an electronic interference going on as the title comes into view. It's a really, really smart choice, and I love that we're setting the vibe with the bass, because whilst there is a higher harmony going on and all that sort of thing, both Teagan and Peter spend a lot of this song singing in lower registers, and so we're getting that tone in mind already, and I think that's a great decision. I also love the use of red immediately. It's interesting because it could give a vibe almost that there's going to be more colour to it, but the fact that it's this consistent colour that starts from the very first frame even. Like, this is the first frame of the video. It doesn't start in black, it starts here and then fades to black. I love that decision so much. I think that's really, really interesting. And the way the video kind of cuts, this has got to be what, roughly three frames before the next thing appears, so you get this thing going on. It's not a smooth line like, you know, these two lines forming around. It's doing it in sort of stuttered motion, and I think that's a really, really sort of cool choice. It gives this very stylized look to this title, and then suddenly, boom, everything is there. And I love that choice, featuring Teagan Earley in red font. I think that's great, and these little bits of interrupted red in Zombie, like everything they've done there. And I know this is Peter's sort of stylized representation of his name online. I really like all of this. I think that just as an opening to a video, this is very, very striking. And if you are going to have a title card like this, making it interesting is, I personally think, very important. Some of the videos I've done by some of the groups that were older, you can see them on my channel. I'm not going to dredge up a specific video or anything, but you just get white text that fades in and fades out, and then on we go. And it title cards the song, but it doesn't do anything interesting or stylistic. This is such a cool way of introducing a song with a title card. Title card even. I think this is a really solid way of doing this. I also like that these white lines we have going down the screen now are total contrast to the horizontal red lines that we had a little while ago. We're 1 second into the video. You know what I mean. A few frames ago. There's lovely sort of use of angles, and it kind of adds to that stuttered start that is these lots of lines involved in all of this. Yeah, really, really cool intro. And we get these pulsing rings, which come back so often throughout the video. And I think that having them here as like a sort of starting point to this thing, very cool. We get those clashing tones. There's a da-da. There's a second and a tonic tone in the top there that just kind of, in the background, almost like distortion feedback, kind of, but not quite. Really, really nice use there of adding in something a little higher pitched in the background, just to distort what we're already hearing. And then the rings fade to black, but the music is getting a bit more present. We're oscillating between those two notes in the top, the warm, 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 warm that we've got going on down the bottom there is becoming ever so slightly, and it's very gradual, but ever so slightly more insistent as we fade into black, which is such an interesting choice. You would often get, as music builds, you would get more on screen, but here we've gone the opposite direction, almost as like a sort of pullback. It's like you're pulling back one of those, a car that you have when you're a kid, and then you let go and boom, off it goes. It's almost like we're doing that. We've pulled away, and then we're going to slowly come into the full visuals for this song. Very cool. And we got that pulse, dum, 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 slowly coming in the back of this. And I was going to say later, actually, that the pulse of the bass drum in this often sounds like a heartbeat. It's not like da-dum, da-dum. It's a single hit, but the timing of it, the way of where it falls, and then when you have that kind of broken lines that you get later that kind of look like blood capillaries. I'll talk about that later. But it adds to that analogy. And here, because it's EQ'd in such a way that some of the attack isn't there, it sounds even more like that rather than a dum, dum. There's no sort of hard drum stick hit. We're just getting that pulse, and it's really cool. And then you get the three Peters coming forwards, completely out of focus. I love this choice to bring them to the front and bring them into focus as we go. And as he comes closer to the screen, we start to hear his vocals added in on that tonic note. So good. And I love that there's a little phasing going on there where he's multi-tracked himself. And you get just a little bit of shift in the tone as you realize there is that multi-tracking going on. I think it's nice that that's in there. I like that. It gives a legitimate quality to the fact that this is multiple takes of something. That build is so cool. We get it. This is so smart. I want to jump the whole way back, actually. So now that a womp is kind of the effect, is kind of what we've got going on there, but it's the boom, a wom, that it's adding in, it's filling the texture out as we go. And we start to hear that da just in the background, and then it kind of fades into the da 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 da. No, what note is that? It's the minor third of the second, just in the background there in like a chime. Little bits and pieces going on. The use of the background of the audio in this is really, really good, I think, the whole way through this video. And as we get the dum dum dum, we get a little bit of distortion coming in over the top of that as well, at layering it still more. Reverse cymbal starts playing. And then the choice to start shaking the video and getting the double images as we get close to that kind of climax point. And then with that, we clear. Teagan comes into the shot. Peter, we get what I'm going to continue with my nomenclature that I use. I'm going to say Prime Peter, which is the Peter we're supposed to be focusing on at any given moment whenever there's some on screen. We switch to a Prime Peter. We get that clarity suddenly. The drums clear up, the EQ fades away a little bit so that it's opening up the frequencies that it's covering. We get the rings coming in immediately, kind of focusing in. They draw your attention to the center because they're kind of haloing Peter. But at the same time, we get this splash of color suddenly coming in with Teagan's hair and lips. The reds that we've got coming in to one side, suddenly playing with our perception of what this video looks like, where up to this point we've been dealing purely in black and white since the title screen faded away. And I really like that sudden punch into so many different things, both musically and visually. Very, very cool. And I actually like the choice to have Teagan on screen just kind of reacting and bopping along to the music. Not necessarily there's no mouth movement or anything like that. There's no indication that she's performing currently. Might be humming, I'm not 100% sure. But the focus is clearly on the ooh that we've got coming here from Peter. Drawing our attention to the fact that there are some low notes going on there because you're trying to figure out what he's singing. But at the same time, we've kind of brought the instrumentation to the fore. So having folks just kind of reacting like they're performing on stage but not actually actively doing something yet is kind of cool. It kind of fills out this sort of almost band vibe, collective vibe that we've got going on. That's nice. I like it. That's cool too. So, one of the things I was going to comment on later, I'm talking a lot at the beginning of this video, but there's some really cool things happening, and I'm going to do a little bit more. These rings, they kind of give me a focus of, especially when they get tighter to a head, it's a sense of focusing on the mental energy and the mental load that goes into performing this song and the words that this song, consists of. This, where you have Peter's head with this kind of fiery, I can't think what the word is, visualization sort of thing that's going on, faded away, almost acts like it's the inside of the head roiling around. And I love that because it's giving us this internal sense. And I think a lot, the internals of this song are focused on quite heavily in the visuals that Marwan has added to it. So it's giving us this vein of thinking and feeling, inside of ourselves, and that's the vibe that you get for what's happening in the performances as well, and I really like that. For this song, it's so appropriate, sort of making you think. I love this kind of, it's at the same time both almost like a lightning-y type look, but also a bit like broken glass coming over the top of Teagan as she comes into view. I really like that. Again, it's these visualizations. It's a very jagged, slightly sharp looking thing, which the sound that we've got on the snare drum right there, this could be like a sonic visualization of that in a way. It's a much more kind of messy sound than the cleanliness of the bass drum. I think that's really kind of cool. And again, I love this idea now that we have Teagan in the front, even though Peter's still performing, and you can see that. We're now drawing our attention to the other performer in this song, and that's really, really cool. And then strings come in at this point, this lovely cello, and we get this visualization ring, which is, I don't know if this is literally the visualization of the waveform that's happening in this song, or if it's just a representation. I feel like at points, I think it might actually be the visualization of the song. But again, this ring around the head, this idea of the haloed singer, focusing on that, but also focusing on the head, the mind, really cool. And we just have faintly in the background this kind of fiery visualization again coming out of the two sort of partial heads we see on either side of the screen as well. Not very present, but it's there, and you're just aware of it in your periphery, and I think that's really cool. Oh, this as well. Again, that idea of the heartbeat, the pulsing, that little flicker where Peter looks very faintly red and then it fades away and then pulses back in again. So cool. The choice to start this thing with "a child is slowly taken," that lower register, I think, is so nice. It kind of pays a little bit of tribute to the grunginess of the original, but where Dolores sang quite high the whole way through this keeping the vocals down, and when Teagan comes in a minute, she's also going to be in a low, well, I don't know her singing voice terribly well, but I'm assuming this is comparatively low register. She's obviously extremely comfortable in this space that she's singing in this video, but they're both lower voices, and I think it's a lovely choice for this. There's a depth and a sincerity to it somehow, and it's not trying to push. It's a comfort zone, but it's got this groundedness to it that I think is really, really good for what Zombie is. Her gaze is so intense throughout this entire thing. Like, it's phenomenal. It has that thing where it's like, I feel like it should be making me feel a little bit uncomfortable almost, but it doesn't. It pulls me into the video even more. And I feel like she's looking into my soul as she's saying this. There's something about I think it's partly the lighting, the monochrome, things like that. But my goodness. Again, as I say, this lovely lower tone. And what I notice here, I hadn't sort of made this connection, but we've now got this look on the sides of that kind of fractured look that I was mentioning that looked a bit like broken glass, now coloured in the red. And this is what I was talking about when I was thinking about Heartbeat, that doom, where it flashes through. It gives me that vein of kind of, capillaries and things like that, and every pump is a fresh heartbeat's pump of blood going through. That's kind of the vibe it's giving me a little bit, and I love that kind of connection. So to my ear and eye at least, these rings kind of represent the mental energy and load of this song, and then these represent the physical. And I don't know if that's remotely what Marwan and Peter were going for with this. That's just kind of what it's giving me, and I really like that, because there's so much in this song, and if you really sit and listen to it, and especially if you understand the context under which it was written, it's a lot to think about, and it should, make us all go inside ourselves for a minute and have a think about the subject matter and especially in the world right now. It's a good food for thought, and I love the fact that that's kind of being represented in this video, at least to me. I like the choice to bring Teagan in unison, in parallel unison with Peter. That is to say, they're singing the same notes in different registers. I think that's a really, really nice choice. She, again, has this lower voice, and so there's a degree of the registers they're singing in that kind of click really well together, and there's not too much distance. It could sound bare if she was she was all the way up there doing this. There'd be a huge void between where she's singing and where Peter's singing. Because they're closer together, that closes that gap a little bit, and again, it adds to that groundedness I was talking about. There, even more, when the boom, boom picks up, that feel of the capillaries again. Really, really cool. I love this harmony that we've got going through here. There's this lovely quality. It fills out surprisingly fast, but it's also filling out slightly behind, so the focus is always on Prime Teagan and Prime Peter. Really, really nice choices of harmony as well. We've got these very slight, these passing notes or sort of brief notes that we sit on that are slightly outside of the scale that we're dealing with. So there's a little bit of clashing, but not too much. Just gives us a little bit of crunch in the background at points, which I think is really, really nice. But these motions that we've got that we have going on there gives it sort of matches in really well with what the melody itself is doing, and so you kind of have this match motion, but also Peter's going down in one of his harmonies. It's not me. Actually, is it Peter or is it? I'm not sure who that was. Sorry, I was singing the melody that Teagan's singing, wasn't I? That's not correct. Or it is, but that's not the harmony I was looking for. Yeah, I can't quite pinpoint it. I'm not the best at picking an individual line out just listening to something, but there's definitely some motion going down as well, so you have these kind of separating lines as they go along, which I think is really cool. That was backwards, wasn't it? It would be this way for you guys. I forget my camera reverses everything. But I think that they fill out this space really quickly, and I like that. I think it gives a sense of fullness that we haven't. It's sort of been open, not bare, but open, and now we flesh it out. And there's a lot of give and take, which I think is something that goes throughout this entire video. We add stuff in and then take it away again. There's this. I used the word oscillating earlier. There's a lot of oscillation between different levels of this thing, and I think that's really cool. Oh, and that chord we end up on there, I think there's a chromatic in there, or at least there's a tone, I'm pretty sure, between two of the harmony notes that we've got going on, to gives it a little bit of crunch there. But there's I think 4 harmony lines. There might be more. Peter, let me know if you're watching this. But I really, really like how they're all melding together. We've got this lovely chord there, and because Teagan's singing lower, Peter's a little higher at this point in time, it's all quite close together. And so we're getting this very sort of full but fairly tightly packed sound. And I think that's very, very effective. And now we have both things happening at once, the rings and the sort of capillary look. And it's upping. We've got the dum, dum, dum. The percussion's picked up. We're really upping the ante, both audibly and visually, and really sort of leading forwards. And I love that. I think this is so effective. Oh, such a good choice there. Those lines with their tanks and their bombs and their bombs and their guns, that's that uptick. Like, we're talking about the literal thing that is doing the harm at this point, and it's making it incessant. It's making you listen by the pressure that's being added with that increase in tension. And then this choice to suddenly rip that away. And we just have that in the background, that what kind of sound going on. Everything else pulls away. We have a full break. And it's great because it puts a button on the end of that. The cutaway, that moment, puts a button on the end of the previous thing. It also gives us a second to breathe before we land back in the next section. So it's a musically smart choice anyway, but in this song specifically, I think it's also a great point to have a break like that, because it just makes you stop for a nanosecond and think about what was just sung before the song moves on. Really good stuff. I really love the choice here, visually speaking, to have the heads on the side of the screen facing out. Like traditional... do we have a good... Actually, this isn't a bad example. Traditional framing says that you have the focal point of somebody's head, if there's an individual close-up in a frame of a photograph or in a cinematic shot. The traditional framing, like the rule that you need to know in order to be able to break it, you divide a screen into thirds, both horizontally and vertically, and you place the center of somebody's head in either the top left or top right, like junction. So where you go 1/3 in and 1/3 down, and that's where you focus the center of that person's, their face. And normally, in this case on screen right now, they're both looking straight to camera. But if they were looking into the frame, that would be the phrase. If they were not looking straight at the camera, they would look into frame. So I would look here. So there's more frame in front of my face and less frame behind it. That's kind of traditional framing with this. This is a little more different. I have no idea whether you can see what I'm doing, where I'm looking into nothing and there's more frame behind me. It implies something a little bit different. What they've done here... So we have... You could barely even see the faces. There's, Teagan's nose and mouth are cut off slightly here. Like, everything is so extreme to the side. Obviously, what we're supposed to be focusing on is Prime Teagan and Prime Peter. But they are so far to one side, and I think that's a really interesting choice. It would have been it would be easy here to have them kind of, Bohemian Rhapsody style surrounding the prime singers, but to push them off to one side and have them facing out of frame, not into frame. Really cool. It kind of gives a sense of a crowd to me, almost, because it's like there's people on either side also singing out, which is really interesting. I don't know why it's giving me that sensation particularly, because you'd almost expect that more if you could see them all clearly. But it's a really cool use of framing to do something different here, and I really like it. I love this use of breath, because there's a lot of, I don't know if it's exactly a yodel that Dolores does, but there's a lot of flitting between registers that she does in the original that we're not doing here, and I think that's perfectly fine. I think it's very unique sound that she created with this song, but that breath at the end of those is giving that same vibe, and I really, really like it. It's kind of pushing the end of that it's giving it a little extra like leg up at the end, and I think that's actually very, very effective. One other thing I like that happens a lot in this video, you notice very, very slowly, I mentioned earlier that the right hand side of the screen, Teagan's nose and mouth were cut off. Now we've lost almost half her face, and same for Peter on the other side, because we're very slowly pushing in. And the whole frame is pushing in. It's not just the two in the center. The entire frame is slowly pushing in. And we do that a lot, and there's a even more effective, I should say much more like this one isn't effective. There's an even more effective use of that later in the video, but I really like it here, where we're just slowly increasing that intensity of the faces as we move forwards. I love that so much, that choice to just lose a beat there in the percussion. Especially coming off the and then you expect it to just keep going, and we just lose it for a second. There's just a little reverse symbol in there, and we cut everything away for a beat, and it's so impactful because, again, it's using rhythm, it's using percussive effect, not just in instrumentation and in a groove, but in the actual rhythm of the flow of the song itself, and it's taking that away for just a second. It resets what we're listening to a little bit. It forces you to refocus on the song, and I really, really like that. I love that little embellishment there too from Teagan. Her voice is fantastic. Like, Peter's I've heard before, and don't get me wrong, they are both fantastic, but I'm just commenting on Teagan because I've never heard her before, consciously speaking, whether or not I've heard her in other, just by chance. But I really, really like her voice doing this, and I love that little embellishment just there. And I love we have the and you just hear the no idea if that was in tune. Just coming through. It just slowly fades in. Like the way it's mixed, I almost feel like it probably does start at full volume, maybe just a tiny bit underneath, but it's like it comes out of the gap that is left when Teagan stops singing, and that the clarity of that, it's in the background, it's just there, but I love that we get the resonance and the kind of creak that sound produces just coming through at the bottom of the mix. I think that's really cool. I like that it's not too forward. It's easy, especially because this is, it's a show-off note. It's a really, really deep note. It's very impactful, and Peter's getting it very, very cleanly. It would have been easy to push that forward and have it too far into the mix, and he hasn't done that, and I love it. Oh! I can't even tell if I'm singing the right note there. I'm still getting used to subharmonics. But the depth of that note down there, that's really, really nice. And I love that we have that against the up there in the top. That's really, really nice. And then we cut from the oh to and it's just this closed, it's such a quieter sound. It lets that violin sail over the top of the arrangement, and the focus is pulled to the upper register, but you still have that weight of support underneath. That's really cool. And I like that the violin... So this... Where I was talking earlier about what would happen if there was a huge range, like if Teagan was singing in the top end of her register and Peter was down at the bottom, you'd have that void in between. That has almost been deliberately created here. You could hear... They're the same thing, but so far apart, and it's deliberately created by adding the violin because it's such a high instrument. And I like it because we have set up... This would almost be too bare early in the arrangement, but coming in now, when we understand what everything is doing, it's really effective because we're opening up that top end a little bit with the violin. Yes, we've had some high harmonies up to this point, but this is so much more prominent than anything that we've heard till now. Really cool. I like the variety of percussion sounds we have going on in the back. It's almost like, I feel like somebody's playing, I can't think what they're called. Like a woodblock or a guiro or something like that. Not sort of stroking it, but hitting it. There's always like these little pops. There's almost like a clap sound. There's a lot of variety to the different percussive sounds going on in the background, and I can't quite tell if it's percussion toys or if it's vocal, like it's vocally produced. I'm not 100% certain. I know that Peter does beatbox, so I imagine it's probably vocally produced, but let me know. I'm not 100%... I hold that thought. Yeah, so there's no credit for vocal percussion, but there's also no credit for drums or percussion, so I'm assuming that this is Peter. Let me know. I am interested to know. But I really, really like that variety of sound, and it's kind of like, it's offbeat and in the background, kind of scattered through the groove in a really, really interesting way. I love this, that we drop back to this dum cha. Like it's just a very, very simple drum beat with these sort of toy sounds going on in the background as well. But it's reduced for the verse so that we can focus on those unique words as we come back in again. I think that's a really, really nice choice. Also, one thing I do want to take a note on is just that I say costuming. I don't know how much it was precisely costuming versus just a decision of clothing to wear, which I understand that's the same thing. But the use of black, and very sort of stark black, but with slight accents, which in Teagan's case is this sheer fabric that covers the shoulders and sort of elements of the upper chest, versus in Peter's case, it's almost like the eyes of where the string is running through his shirt. These little tiny accents of difference. It's a really, really nice choice because it's giving us more grayscale almost. If you just had a black shirt with plain black buttons, it would just be a mess. But the fact that they've both worn clothing that has something that's a little bit different, I think is really nice because it gives a lot of definition to the shape of the shoulders and upper chest that we're seeing in these shots that we wouldn't necessarily have. And I think especially when you've got this, this video is so deliberately dark and black throughout, it's nice to have that kind of definition of the lining. Very, very cool. One thing I've just noticed as well is I like the fact that when the side singers are always slightly out of focus, it harkens back to that beginning where the three Peters kind of faded into view. It's got that kind of vibe going on again, and I like that that's sort of been set up almost by that initial zoom in that we had at the very, very beginning. I like this. This is the timing of these cuts. That first half of this phrase, each bar, dum, cha, cut, cha, cut, cha, and then here, cut. And then we settle. I like the fact that there's visual rhythm being used in this as well. Very, very effective because it helps the eye keep track of what's going on, but it's not consistent. It's not this incessant similarity of cutting. There's lots of variety going on. That's really cool. And again, this whole section here. Notice where Peter's head is. We've got the rings, we've got this capillary thing going on, and as this section goes, we're going to have those same cuts, and we're slowly going to push in again. This is so effective. And then we suddenly have as this we got this much more sort of rushed drum beat going on, and these cuts kind of like moving around the screen a little. And then suddenly you have this very, very rushed cuts of Teagan, and then the snap to her just in the middle of the frame. Everything else has disappeared. We have that momentary break once more. And I love the choice to have the little flick of the hair, so the ponytail or whatever just kind of flicks very slightly there. Very, very cool. And also notice, lots of visuals going on here. This video is fascinating to me. But the asymmetry here, we have one large Peter facing off the right side of the screen and two smaller ones facing off the left side of the screen. Really interesting choice there to lose some of the symmetry that's been so consistent throughout a lot of this video. I love that we still have the whole way, like, consistently still now this womp, 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 womp sound that we had at the beginning, but now it's a little bit more kind of rhythmic, it's a little bit more pacey than it was before, still there in the background of this thing. It kind of creeps in and out. It's really, really effective because we had that was that initial setup. And what I think I love about this is I don't think, and I might be wrong about this, but I don't think any instrumental point of interest is ever introduced in this song and then never used again. Oh, and I love that cutout again. And this is so interesting to me because we've gone black and white, but the pull-out from where there's this slight red filter over the whole screen. And because of the pace at which I'm pausing it here and stopping and looking, you could see it's gone back to the grayscale. Teagan, with the exception of the lips and the hair, is grayscale again. So, but because of the pull-out from the red, she almost looks a little blue. Like it's a blue filter for a second. And what I love about that is it gives a moment of this self-reflection almost. Eyes closed, head down. And because there's that hint of almost like that blue quality, it's a little cold for just a second. That's really interesting to me. And then immediately it punches back out again, and we have that red filter back. And I think that's why that is so effective. And the choice to visually represent what the arrangement is doing, and again, I love the choice in the arrangement to have that drop out here too, but this is such an impactful visual. And now the way the mixing has shifted, Peter has actually come to the fore. This is further back in the mix. Really nice. And it's just this give and take, this oscillation, which seems to be a theme throughout this entire video, both in terms of the visuals, but very much in terms of the music. And again, that with the over the top of it, that breadth again, that void in between, but it's filled with this and the other harmonies that are going on. But those two notes stand out in that moment. Such beautiful. It's lovely, lovely work in terms of both the arrangement and the mixing of this. I really love this choice. We've got this lovely guitar sound going on in the background now. This down at the beginning of each of these phrases. And I love the fact that we have the cut. Boom. Suddenly it's a cut to a new frame at the end of each phrase. Really cool, this visualizer again. This is the section, these pulses on the right-hand side, like the bottom right sector of this that's currently blank, flaring with the hits of the bass drum and the snare drum effect, make me wonder if this is kind of like a legitimate visualization of this. I'm guessing it probably is. But yeah, really, really like this. And I love the fact that we've pulled back and dropped back to that more EQ'd tone now. So it's a little bit less clarity, it's a little bit more muddy, though the percussion is still very clear. And the guitar. So let me rephrase that. The vocals have had the EQ applied again quite heavily. Oh, that tone too. I like the tiny little little passing notes in there, but then this angelic sound that's going over the top, and yet still muffled a little bit. I really, really like that. She's got such a gorgeous voice for that kind of, he says, sounding absolutely terrible, but that kind of sliding wail over the top of this. It's really, really nice. Oh, that's such a cool effect. I love that. The pull back. We got this the reverse cymbal. We pull away. Everything carries on. The vocals are gone. We go back to black again. So we're like, as we did at the beginning, things are still happening, but we've gone to black, and then the visualizer draws the circle. That's so cool. With the we got that distorted guitar slide. And now it's really red filtered. Like, this is very, very red. You get this lovely guitar solo going over the top, but we still hear the purity of those sounds in the background. And there, the whole way through, this is the one I was talking about earlier. You notice it with the visualizer first, and then clock that it's happening with Teagan. Notice this gentle push-in. Very slowly moving forwards. And then I love that in the upbeat, we cut to this new framing, the in your, and then on the break. In your head, bang! Everything comes back in again, and suddenly there's 7 people on screen. Really, really cool. And I love that we have that whole break, and now we reintroduce Peter at the end. We got these lovely vocals for him added back into this mix as we come towards the end of this song. Whoa! This gorgeous harmony line sailing over the top of it. It's not quite a descant, but it's pushing in that direction. Really nice. And there's that violin back in again. Lovely stuff. And then we cut back to this, and it's such an interesting cut, musically speaking. We got the... Again, this cello comes back in. The percussion toys are kind of bouncing around the panning a little. They were earlier, but it's kind of more obvious now. I love that da 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 da. Lovely cello harmony going on there. And I love that we're left with the sub at the end there. That is so effective. And yet again, we're left with Peter singing and yet Teagan's center frame. That stare again. But we get the two Peters off to one side. You can hear the split in the audio at that point. Is he producing the sound two different ways? Is there like a sub and also like a low chest going on at the same time? I'm not 100% sure. Peter, let me know. It sounds like the two sides are getting a slightly different effect. I'm not 100% certain, but it's a love the sound he's producing at the end of that to end this out with this beautiful deep tonic. Having started with the electronic tonic. Damn it, Janet. We now end with this vocally produced tonic. So we've gone the whole way through, and we started out with this instrumentation, and the digital title and all that kind of stuff, and we end with humanity and human-produced vocal sound at the end there, and I think that's a lovely choice. And I love that the whole way through this, with these little interjections coming from Teagan that just kind of fill out the sound a little bit. Kind of like the way the percussion toys are filling in gaps. She fills in the gaps with these little vocal touches, and I think that's really nice. I just want to listen one more time to that ending. Yeah, I think he's double-tracked himself there in 2 octaves. He's singing the low chest, and then he's subbing the same note. So you get the... I don't know if I have that sub. But he's singing those 2 notes simultaneously, and so you get this lovely, clean sound in the... I guess it's the 2 octave register, and then the sub in the 1 octave. And that's a lovely way to end this thing out. Great job, Peter and Teagan, both of you, and Marwan, and everybody else, the instrumentalists who were involved in this thing. Fabulous work. This is a really, really good arrangement, a brilliant video, and a spectacular singing. Really, really impressed with this one. Bravo. Thank you very much for putting this out. And I've been chatting with Peter over the last little bit because I knew I was going to be doing this month, and he said, Marwan's nearly there, we're going to get this out, so I'm really excited that I'm able to do this now, so yay. Yeah, that's a remarkable, it's such an incredible song in the first place, and I actually really, really like that arrangement of it, so well done again. I think that's one you need to get right, and I think they got it right. I really, really like that. I hope that you enjoyed that as well, and I hope that this video brought you something. I forgot to say it again, as always. If I happen to bring you Peter, check in the description down below. You'll see a link to his channel and Teagan's channel and the original of this video. Do go and check them out. Peter's a fantastic artist, so is the Bass Gang. Teagan is a fantastic artist based on having just seen this. I am going to hopefully check out some more of her stuff. This is tough because I never know when I'm doing things like this, so I have to moderate when I listen to music. It's a little tricky. But I will probably put some of her stuff onto the channel in due course. But I really, really enjoyed that. Maybe I brought you this song. Maybe you hadn't heard it yet, in which case, support the original artists. By which I mean the original artists of this video, but also the Cranberries. It's a damn good song. Go check out the original if you haven't heard it before. It's remarkable. Very good video, too. Also does some cool things with colour. And maybe you've heard this, I don't know, 20 times by the time this comes out. This will be released on Friday, so this video came out last Monday as I released this. And if that's the case, hopefully I'm able to bring you something that you're like, oh, that's why I like that bit, or I hadn't noticed that before. Something like that. That's what I'm aiming to do with these videos. So with a bit of luck, I was able to do that for you. And thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate the time that you spend with me, especially if you're still here at the end of the video. It really, really means a lot. Please do hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. And if you would care to support the channel, you can do so by heading to buymeacoffee.com/DavidKReacts and leaving either a one-off donation or contributing to my wishlist item. You could also head to patreon.com/DavidKReacts and sign up for $2 or $4 Canadian or your regional equivalent. That's currently just ongoing support of the channel, along with access to my Discord. More to come. Or you can leave a super thanks here on YouTube, and any of those would be very gratefully appreciated if you choose to do them, but of course, no pressure. And that's it for this week. There is going to be one more Reactor Month video. There were too many reactors, and I wanted to cover as many as I could. And I'd originally hoped to do this like my other theme months, where I do 2 videos a week, and I'd have been able to do 8 people. I couldn't make that work with my scheduling this, excuse me, hiccups. This particular month, so I am going to do one more Reactor next week. I hope you will join me for that. And I hope that you've enjoyed Reactor Month. Let me know. It's kind of something a little bit different. It's less of a musical theme or a thematic content like Video Game Month or something like that, and more geared towards the individual people. So interested to know what your thoughts are. But thank you very much indeed for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, morning, afternoon, nighttime. I don't know what time it happens to be whenever you're watching this. Let's go for, what haven't I done before? 11:59 a.m. It'll be noon by the time I finish signing off. I don't know. Whatever. But yeah, take care, look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.